Beneath the calm surface of our oceans lies a world that might as well be alien. Down there, beyond the reach of sunlight, the sun fades into memory. Colors die one by one. Pressure builds with every meter until it could crush steel like paper, collapse submarines like tin cans. And yet, something is moving in that darkness. Something that glows with its own cold light. Something that hunts with patience, measured in hours. Something that waits in the void for prey that may never come. Tonight, we dive into the silent abyss, into a world that has existed for hundreds of millions of years, largely unchanged, largely unknown. Take a deep breath. Fill your lungs completely, because we're going down, and we're not stopping until we reach the bottom of the world.
Imagine you're floating at the surface of the open ocean. No land in sight. Waves rock you gently. Sunlight warms your skin. The water is a comfortable 24 degrees Celsius. Everything feels safe, familiar. But as we descend, every single meter changes the rules of survival. The first few dozen meters, this is the sunlit zone. This narrow band from the surface down to about 200 meters is where 90% of all ocean life exists. Here, sunlight still penetrates. Phytoplankton drift in vast clouds. Coral reefs explode with color. This is the ocean we think we know, but keep sinking. At around 200 meters, we enter the twilight zone, a place where light is a rumor, not a fact, where the sun's rays arrive so weakened they can barely be called light at all. The water temperature drops sharply, from 24 degrees to 5. The pressure increases to 20 times the surface. At this pressure, your lungs would collapse, your eardrums would rupture. The creatures here have evolved eyes the size of softballs, massive organs designed to capture every last photon of fading light. Human eyes can barely function here, but something else can. Past 1,000 meters, we enter the midnight zone. Total, absolute darkness. No natural light reaches here. Not a single ray. The pressure has increased to over 100 times the surface, enough to compress water itself. Nothing familiar should exist here, nothing recognizable. And yet, life finds a way. Below 4,000 meters lies the Abyssal Plain, a vast flat desert of fine sediment that covers more of Earth's surface than all the continents combined. And deeper still, the Hadal Zone, the Mariana Trench, the deepest scar on Earth. At its lowest point, Challenger Deep, the ocean floor lies nearly 11 kilometers straight down. If you dropped Mount Everest into the Mariana Trench, the peak wouldn't even break the surface. At these depths, pressure exceeds 1,000 times the surface, over 16,000 pounds per square inch, enough to compress water itself. Nothing familiar should exist here. Our first encounter begins with a light. A single floating glow in the absolute darkness. It sways gently, mimicking prey, pulsing. The light creates a rhythm that draws the eye, that triggers the predatory instinct. It looks almost innocent, almost beautiful. Only when it's too late do you see the teeth. Rows of needle-sharp teeth angled inward like the bars of a cage. A mouth that can unhinge, that can open wider than the body itself. The anglerfish, one of the deep sea's most iconic predators. Females can grow to the size of a basketball. Their jaws are massive, hinged to swallow prey up to twice their own size. Once those jaws close, once those teeth pierce flesh, there is no escape. But that light isn't magic. It's a lure, called an esca, a modified dorsal fin spine. Inside that lure live billions of bioluminescent bacteria. The anglerfish provides the bacteria with nutrients. In return, the bacteria produce light through a chemical reaction, luciferin and luciferase combining to create a cold blue-green glow. The anglerfish controls this light with precision. It can make it pulse, flicker, dance in patterns that mimic prey. And in the absolute darkness, that lure is irresistible. For centuries, sailors spoke of the Kraken, a monster so large it could drag ships to the depths. Tentacles thick as ship masts, eyes that glowed in the dark, a beak strong enough to bite through wood. For most of history, scientists dismissed these stories as myth, exaggeration, the fevered imagination of sailors who'd spent too long at sea. It wasn't myth, it was Architeuthis ducks, the giant squid. They can grow up to 43 feet long, 13 meters from the tip of the mantle to the end of the two longest feeding tentacles. That's longer than a school bus, longer than most whales. With eyes the size of dinner plates, the largest eyes in the entire animal kingdom. Some specimens have eyes nearly 30 centimeters in diameter. Basketball-sized organs designed for one purpose: to see in near total darkness. Those massive eyes can detect the faintest bioluminescent glow from hundreds of meters away. They can spot the silhouette of a sperm whale, their primary predator, descending from above, blocking out what little light filters down from the surface. And their 8 arms are lined with suckers. But these aren't the soft, flexible suckers of a common octopus. Each sucker is ringed with sharp, serrated chitin-like teeth, hundreds of them per arm. When a giant squid grabs prey, those rings dig in, shredding flesh, creating wounds that never fully heal. The 2 feeding tentacles, longer than the arms, tipped with wider sucker pads, shoot out at lightning speed, striking prey from a distance. The squid can extend these tentacles to twice their resting length in a fraction of a second, faster than most fish can react. And at the center of all those arms, hidden in the mass of writhing limbs, sits a beak. Not teeth, a beak. Made of chitin, the same material as insect exoskeletons, shaped like a parrot's beak, but the size of a human fist. That beak is strong enough to slice through steel cable, strong enough to bite through bone. And it's the only hard part of the squid's entire body. Everything else is soft tissue, allowing the squid to squeeze through impossibly tight spaces, to compress its body to escape predators. For over a century, we only found them dead, washed ashore after storms, pale, damaged, often partially eaten by scavengers, or floating at the surface, dying, their bodies failing in the warm, low-pressure environment of the upper ocean. We had no idea how they lived, how they hunted, how they moved, whether they were aggressive or passive, fast or slow, solitary or social. We had specimens, we had bodies, but we had no behavior, no context, just corpses and questions. Until 2004, when a team of Japanese researchers, led by Tsunemi Kubodera, did something no one had managed before. They captured the first photographs of a living giant squid in its natural habitat, 900 meters below the surface, in the deep waters off Japan's Ogasawara Islands. They used a baited line with a camera attached, and when the squid attacked, when it wrapped its tentacles around the bait and tried to drag it away, the camera captured everything. It wasn't passive, it wasn't slow, it wasn't the sluggish, dying creature we'd seen wash the shore. It was aggressive, powerful, fast. The squid attacked the bait with shocking violence, wrapping tentacles around it, trying to tear it free. And when the squid realized it was caught, when one of its tentacles became entangled in the line, it did something that stunned the researchers. It severed its own tentacle, amputated it, left it behind and disappeared back into the darkness. That severed tentacle, still writhing, still covered with those tooth-ring suckers, was 5.5 meters long. Just one tentacle. And it fought the researchers for hours as they brought it to the surface. The suckers latching onto anything they touched. The muscles still contracting with enough force to leave bruises. If one tentacle could do that, what could the whole animal do? 3 years later in 2007, the same team captured the first video footage of a living giant squid. This time they went deeper, 1,000 meters. And this time they saw the squid in its element. It moved with grace, with precision, its tentacles flowing through the water like ribbons, its body pulsing with chromatophores, color-changing cells that created waves of red and white across its skin. And for the first time, we saw the Kraken as it truly was. Not a myth, not a monster, a predator, a survivor, an animal so perfectly adapted to the deep that it had remained hidden from us for all of human history.
But the squid isn't the strangest thing down here. In the deep, light is life, and almost every creature here makes its own. 90% of deep-sea life is bioluminescent. They use it to hunt. But some predators evolved an even deadlier advantage. The dragonfish produces red bioluminescence, invisible to most prey. In the darkness, thousands of firefly squid gather, flashing in perfect synchronization.
To communicate, to confuse, and to hide. This wasn't always the ocean's strategy. Bioluminescence evolved over 700 million years, driven by pressure, darkness, and the need to survive where nothing else could. Some creatures light their bellies to match the faint glow from above, erasing their silhouette entirely. The vampire squid takes this further. When threatened, it inverts itself, revealing glowing arm tips that create a disorienting star field. But perhaps the most beautiful display comes from the comb jelly. Rows of tiny hairs that refract light like a prism, creating a living rainbow in the abyss.
But the giant squid is just one inhabitant of the abyss. One mystery solved among thousands that remain. So tell me, what creature of the deep do you want to see next? The vampire squid? The goblin shark? Something even stranger lurking in the trenches? Drop your answer in the comments below, because if enough of you ask, we'll dive deeper. Part 2 is coming soon. And trust me, what we find down there will make the Kraken look tame. Until then, stay curious, stay brave, and remember, the abyss is always watching back.